Good morning, student. Welcome back. So, yesterday we started with the chapter The Adventure of the Mason, written by Washington Irving. So, before reading this story any further, let's revise what we did yesterday. Now, there was a mason who lived in Granada in Spain and he was very poor. One day, a stranger approached him and offered him a job. Now, the mason had only one condition for doing the job, and that was that he should be well paid. The stranger agreed to this, but he also put one condition, and that is that the mason will be blindfolded while doing his work. Now the stranger took the mason to his mansion and asked him to build a vault. The vault it was built in 2 nights, and the stranger was paid with a piece of gold. After this, the stranger asked the mason to help him to bury the bodies in the vault. Now, to know what happened next, let's read the story further. The poor mason's hair rose on his head at these words. However, he followed the stranger with trembling steps into a retired chamber of the mansion, expecting to see some ghastly spectacle of death, but was relieved on seeing 3 or 4 portly jars standing in one corner. They were evidently full of money, and it was with great labor that he and the stranger carried them to their tomb. So write the meanings of the difficult words first. First word here is trembling. Trembling means shaking. Next is retired. Retired means quiet, and chamber means room. Ghastly means horrible, and spectacle means sight. Portly means stout. Okay, so the poor mason, so when the stranger asked the mason to help him bury the bodies, mason was petrified and he expected to see some ghastly spectacles. Ghastly spectacle here means some horrible sight. But he was relieved on seeing the 4 portly jars. Now, then he saw the 4 jars which were to be buried, and all the jars they were kept in a retired chamber. I told you the meaning of retired. Retired means in a very quiet chamber, in a very quiet room, and the jars they were full of money. So the stranger asked for the help of the mason to carry the jars to the vault, as they were filled with money and were really heavy, so he cannot take them alone to the vault. The vault was then closed, the pavement replaced, and all the traces of the work were erased. The mason was again blindfolded and led forth by a route different from that by which he had come. After they had wandered for a long time through a confusing maze of lanes and alleys, they halted. The stranger then put 2 pieces of gold into his hand. "Wait here," he said, "until you hear the cathedral bell toll for the morning prayer. If you dare to uncover your eyes before that time, evil will come upon you." So saying, he departed. The mason waited faithfully. The moment the cathedral bell rang, he uncovered his eyes and made his way back home. He revelled with his family for a whole fortnight on the profits of his 2 nights' work, after which he was as poor as ever. So now the vault was closed and all the traces of work were erased. So why do you think the traces were erased? The traces were erased so that nobody comes to know about the vault and the jars inside it, about the money that was hidden. So the stranger again blindfolded the mason, but this time, instead of taking him from the usual route, he was taken out from a different route, from a maze which was full of lanes. Now, lanes here means narrow road and alleys. And then the stranger was and then the stranger paid the mason with 2 pieces of gold and asked him to wait until he heard the morning prayer from the cathedral nearby. Now, what is the meaning of cathedral? Cathedral means a church. The mason was also warned by the stranger. He also warned the mason that if he uncovered his eyes before the morning prayer or before he heard the bell toll for the morning prayer, he will be cursed. Saying that, the stranger left. Now the mason faithfully followed the orders, and the moment he heard the cathedral bell rang, he uncovered his eyes and went home. So now he reveled. Revel means that he enjoyed. Revel means he enjoyed, he rejoiced for a full. So this mason, he reveled. Revel means that he enjoyed and he rejoiced with his family for a whole fortnight. Fortnight means a period of 2 weeks. So whatever profits, whatever money the stranger has given to the mason as the wages, the mason spent all that money in the period of fortnight, and he was again poor. Let's read further now. He continued to work a little from year to year. As he was seated one evening at the door of his hovel, he was approached by a rich old curmudgeon who was noted for owning many houses and being a gripping landlord. Now years have passed, and the mason is still poor. He worked and earned a little. One evening, when he was sitting in his hovel means a small, badly maintained house, a rich old curmudgeon means a person who gets angry very easily and who keeps complaining and grumbling. He approached him, and that curmudgeon, the old man, was also a landlord. The man eyed him for a moment from beneath a pair of thick, anxious eyebrows. I am told, friend, that you are very poor. There is no denying the fact, Senor. It speaks itself. I believe, then, that you will be glad of a job and will work cheap. As cheap, my master, as any mason in Grenada. That's what I want. I have an old house fallen into decay, which costs me more money than it is worth to keep it in repair, for nobody will live in it. So I must come up with a way to patch it up and keep it together at as small an expense as possible. So the landlord offered him a job and asked him whether he is willing to work on low wages or not. Now the mason, as you all know, was very poor. He accepted the job, and the landlord told him that there is an old house which needs to be repaired, and he doesn't want to spend much money on its repair. So he agreed to give the job to the mason, and mason also agreed to do the job. So children, that's it for the day. Your homework is to read the chapter and to learn the difficult words with its meaning. Also, write the answers for the questions given in the worksheet. Thank you, everyone.